All right. Hello and welcome to Nap Chats. We are live and we are really excited for our first show ever.
Woohoo!
My name is Arvin Abadilla. I'm the dad and founder of Eli and Allie Baby.
And I'm Leslie Robinette, VP of Operations at Eli and Allie Baby, and a mother of two little ones as well. So, Arvin, this is our first show, and before we get started, I think we should share with our audience why we decided to have this show and why is it called Nap Chats?
Nap Chats, right. So, when the pandemic hit, we lost childcare, and you've been juggling your work and your childcare as well, and a lot of our stuff has gotten done during nap time, including, everything and anything. It's like our power hour, so we decided to call it Nap Chats. And when we bring on our first guest, Becca, her little one may or may not be napping as well. So it's a hit or miss. We'll see.
Yeah. So, and it's funny because all the parents that we're talking to also they have nap time as well. So it also inspired us with this name. So I guess we should get started and.
Yeah. All right. So with that said, we'll be discussing interesting and relevant topics to us and that we curate through our audience. We've gotten some feedback. As you know, New York Times, NPR has published some recent stories on giving birth during the pandemic. So we just wanted to cast the net to our audience, our following, and see, has anyone gone through the same thing? So that'll be the topic for today. And so, giving birth during the pandemic is the core issue, but we'll be exploring a lot of secondary issues as well.
Right. Yeah. And the coronavirus pandemic, as you all know, has brought on a lot of changes worldwide, especially with social distancing measures to keep the community healthy and to help flatten the curve. And with that, there's so many things that have changed in our lifestyle with schools closing and with also having to work from home. So parents have had to step into this new role of being a teacher and also being a caregiver while also balancing that between work. So it's been quite interesting.
Yeah, and we're in the thick of it too ourselves, still figuring it out. There are bound to be some technical difficulties here, so if any of us cut out, just bear with us. With that said, hospitals, they've started limiting the number of guests that could come and visit with the expectant mother, and sometimes even the husband finds himself separated from the mother unexpectedly, so that support system isn't as expected, and so there are some curveballs thrown. So we wanted to take a deep dive, share people's experiences that have been through this firsthand, and see where it goes.
Yeah, and if you're joining us today and watching the show, there's a high chance that you or somebody you know has been affected by this situation, and you might have some questions. So we're happy to answer questions along the way, and Becca, who has been through this experience, will be answering some questions live. So please feel free to enter in a comment below in the comment section, a comment or a question, and hopefully we can get to all of your questions today and answer them. But let's go ahead and introduce our guest, Arvin.
Yes, our first guest today is a new mother and a registered nurse, a caregiver to baby Peyton. And so welcome, Becca. Thank you for joining us today.
Oh, and there's Peyton. Yay. You're such a cutie. Hi.
Hello.
Thank you so much for joining us today.
Peyton did wake up. She wanted to be a part of the show.
Yeah.
We're happy to have her.
Totally. Yeah. And this is we know this live, no pressure, do what you got to do. We'll roll with the punches here. So just a little bit of introductions. We know you're in Mobile, Alabama. Can you paint a picture for us, just where you are, your community, how the pandemic crept into your community? I know every community's timeline is different, so just help the audience understand where you're coming from.
Yeah, so all of the pandemic stuff started right about when I was 36 weeks pregnant, so sometime in like the beginning of March, area. My husband hadn't missed a doctor's appointment the entire time, and then all of a sudden he wasn't allowed to go. So that was really tough. But it started about the beginning of March, but it didn't really get bad until actually right after we got home from the hospital. It was like starting to ramp up the week we delivered. Actually.
Yeah. So how did the shutdown happen for me? I'm in Carlsbad, California. Leslie is in Houston, Texas. For us, it was like over the course of 2 days, everything just started shutting down left and right. How was it in Mobile?
I feel like it was kind of the same. It was kind of just like, right, everything happened kind of quickly and all at once, and then everything was closed for quite a long time. So we're actually just opening up. It's okay, baby. We're just now opening up restaurants and all of those things now for inside seating, where it has been just curbside.
Yes.
And like entertainment things are just opening up, and there's still things that are closed. Yeah, definitely still affected.
Yeah. And what's interesting about you is that you're also a postpartum nurse. So you deal directly with babies and mothers who have been through the experience, who have had babies after giving birth. So tell us a little bit about your occupation. How long have you been in that occupation?
I'm coming up on 2 years as a postpartum nurse. I was a medical surgical nurse for a year and a half right out of school. Wow. So I'm coming up on my 3rd year of nursing, and it'll be 2 years on the postpartum floor in January. So how
do you like it?
I would never change it. I love working with the babies and the moms. It's honestly the best job I could have imagined, even during all this craziness. And now that I have my own, I have way more of a appreciation for mothers going through this, and just the childbirth in general. It gives me a better insight to take care of them as well.
Yeah.
And you just went back to work, right? You just finished your maternity leave and back to work. So experiencing all that, how has that been, that transition?
It's definitely been tough. We are required to wear masks for our whole 12-hour shift, so that is an adjustment for sure. But other than that, things really haven't changed other than, the visitors. Obviously, we can only have the husbands in the room. So, and, at looking back on my delivery too, you have to look back on it. It was such a sweet time with just my husband and my new baby. And, we got to kind of adjust to parenthood together without any other, I would have loved to have my family there, but it was such a sweet time, just the two of us, that we got to enjoy our baby and, kind of get to know her together,
Yeah. We're seeing a lot of that. I don't want to call this silver lining. There's obviously tragic things happening, but with a lot of families that we're speaking to, they're also able to focus in and just hold that space for just the family unit. So if we can rewind just a little bit, can you talk about when you found out that you're pregnant? What was the climate like? What month was that? And then we'd like to transition into when you started understanding that it was a pandemic now, and like the transition into the pandemic in relation to your expectancy.
Sure. So actually I found out that I was pregnant the end of July, beginning of August. I found out very, very early.
And this is your first child, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So I found out very early. We actually went to Disney World just a couple weeks after we found out. That's how we announced our pregnancy to our families. We took pictures in Disney World to announce it to our families when we got home. And then we actually went to New York City in December. I was 28 weeks pregnant, I believe, 27 or 28 weeks, which is crazy to think about now that, it really hit up there first. But we were just there in December, right around Christmas time. And, we came back, and then we started seeing articles about the coronavirus and how bad it was in China. And, then around probably the end of February is when I started to realize, like, oh my gosh, this is actually like going to affect how we deliver. This is going to affect our pregnancy.
Yes.
And my pregnancy was there was no issues. I had no complications. I had no blood pressure issues. I wasn't a diabetic. The things that you would expect to go wrong during your pregnancy.
Right.
Didn't.
Nice.
Oh my goodness.
Oh.
It was a very uneventful pregnancy. I enjoyed being pregnant. And working in the hospital, I definitely got more of a insight on what was going on. We talked about it a lot. And, just at work every day.
Yeah. So just real quick, in terms of expectations, we always paint a picture in our head of how the ideal scenario and how it unfolds. And then when you add on the layer of the things shutting down, some services becoming inaccessible, how did that affect your preparation and then your behavior and how you in your actions as as the time came closer to delivery?
Yeah, sure. So I had expectations. My mom actually went with me to my 36-week appointment when I scheduled my C-section, because this little bit was almost 9 pounds. So she was a big old baby.
Wow.
So we had actually planned with my OB for her and my husband both to be in the delivery room with me in the OR to have the baby come into the world. And it wasn't even a week later that we found out she couldn't.
Yeah.
Not only did I process, oh my gosh, I have to have a C-section. Oh my goodness. Which is, major surgery. I've never had surgery before.
Yes.
And my whole pregnancy, I was like, I don't want a C-section. That's the last thing that I need. I don't want it.
Yeah, that was an expectation. Yeah, for sure.
So then it kind of went from there to, okay, well, mom can't be in there. Okay, we can handle that. She can still come visit, whatever. Because at that point, they were limiting visitors, but they were still allowing the husband and one visitor at a time to come into the
well, that's good that you were able to have visitors. I know some hospitals, they didn't allow any visitors at all.
Yeah, by the time I delivered, it was just my husband. There was no other, visitors allowed. But that week after I found out, they were still allowed to come up. They just weren't allowed, there was only one person at a time. They had to swap out,
Yeah.
So then the next week after that, it felt like it kind of snowballed, the next week after that, it was, the shutdown was happening, and all of a sudden it was just the husband, and all those articles were coming out about New York City and them separating the wives and the husbands. And, I freaked out quite a lot about my husband being separated.
Can we focus on that a little bit? When you realized you would be separated with your husband, can you help us understand your mentality, your mood, the unexpected support being stripped away, and the fear? I imagine that there's an element of fear of the unknown and anxiety that it can spur.
Oh yeah. It was definitely, at that point I was going to the OB once a week. So I felt like every time I went into her office, I was tearing up, okay, have you heard anything about husbands not being allowed? Have you heard anything about husbands not being allowed? So we had many conversations about that. And, at work, things were changing daily. It was one day we were doing this, the next day we were doing that. And that's, just working in a hospital during a pandemic. That's just the nature of what you're doing.
Right.
Things evolve daily. So it was very, it was definitely a source of anxiety. I had planned to work right up until, I think it was 2 days before I delivered. I actually ended up going out of work early because it was just, you're already so nervous about this major surgery that you have to have. And, oh my gosh, you're going to be a mom and you have to keep this little tiny human alive. There's a lot of anxieties that come with just being pregnant. And then being a nurse in the pandemic was just added another layer to that already anxious time. And I worked with my OB, so it was, one day she walked into work and she could tell on my face that I was not having a good morning, and things were changing again, and she kind of just was like, Becca, I think your last day needs to be Sunday, not what you were thinking, like next Friday. And she was like, I want you to call your mom and have your mom come up here and spend the week with you. So she was I was fortunate to have that relationship with her where she could be like, okay, this is what we need to do, for your mental health, and for your peace of mind.
Was it easy? Sorry, was it easy to let go of that, Becca?
No, it was not. I was bound and determined to work right up to my due date so that I could take all the time off with Peyton that I could. And then one of the nurses on my floor actually was like, Becca, it's 2 less days. Like, it's 2 less days that you have with her, because we work 12-hour shifts. So it really wasn't, it's not like I work 5 days a week. So when she put it that way, I was like, you're right. I think that I just need to step back and, just let go for that extra week and, take care of myself. Which is, I'm stubborn in nature. So I didn't enjoy doing that.
Well, tell us about the OB visits, like during your pregnancy, before COVID hit, and then afterwards. How did that change? I mean, what was the atmosphere in the clinic and everything?
Yeah. So, like I said, I worked with the OBs over on the floor. So it was very, when I came into the clinic, I was saying hi to everybody, I could
giving hugs, maybe.
Possibly see patients that had discharged, because they all had to come in for their follow-ups. It was just, I looked forward to going to the doctor. I liked going to the doctor and, hearing the heart beating and getting checked out and all that stuff. And then after, when all this stuff started getting bad, my husband couldn't come. I was glad that we had done all of our scans before all of that happened so that I didn't do any ultrasounds by myself. But, every other chair is blocked off. You have to wear a mask and you get your temperature checked, and it's all very, distanced. And that, as a postpartum mom, you always think about, well, when I go for my follow-up, then my OB is going to fawn over my baby and the nurse, and they're going to get to see this baby that they watched grow for 9 months, and that wasn't the reality. I went to my postpartum appointment alone. I didn't get to bring my baby. So there was a little bit of disappointment there. I didn't get to show her off like I thought I was going to, it was tough for sure.
You have, tell us about your family. Do you have a pretty big family? And whenever you have family gatherings, I mean, were you expecting to be able to show Peyton to everybody? And how did you feel when you knew that you would maybe have to keep your distance for a little while?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Peyton's actually the first grandchild and first great grandchild on my side of the family.
That is a big deal.
So we had gotten shirts made. They were going to be up here. They were going to be in the waiting room. It was a huge production. It was a huge deal. And we're all very close. I mean, we have a group chat that we talk in every day. Like we're a very tight-knit family. So that was definitely, I mean, she didn't meet her great grandparents until 3 weeks ago. So that was really tough. She wasn't a brand new newborn. My parents did get to come that same, they met her at 3 days old. So they were here. They actually watched my dogs while we were in the hospital. I have 2 Labradors. So they watched our dogs for us. And my husband's dad was able to meet her, but his mom lives in Seattle, so she wasn't able to fly out here either. And even when she had planned to come, her flight got canceled. So, there's still people that haven't met her, and, some of my friends haven't met her. It was very, And it still is very hard. You know, every time you take your baby out of the house, you're like, okay, is she going to get COVID? You know, every time she sneezes or coughs when you get home, it's like, well, I'm glad I took her out to eat because now she's got COVID, you know?
Right,
it's very
right.
scary to be like a new mom right now.
Yeah.
There's a lot of anxiety and worry on top of your normal new mom anxiety and worry.
Right.
Yeah. Do you think that your background as an RN has that increased your level of precaution and I don't want to say fear, but just your the way you approach things, or like in other words, there's a lot of people around me that it's just like the long game, and they're starting to let their guard down. And like social events and I see people hugging. So I know everyone has their own level of comfort.
Right.
But how has that affected how you're approaching things now, postpartum, with the climate right now? Would you say that
are you
fairly
allowing
cautious?
more people to hold Peyton, or how is that going?
It's a lot of looking from a distance. You know, we've been there's restaurants that offer outside seating here, so we've been out to eat a few times and ate outside. You know, socially distanced, of course. And we enjoy doing that because I feel like, you know, even during a pandemic, you know, you've got to take her out at some point. You know, she's almost 3 months old now, so it's got to happen at some point. So we have done that. You know, it's like a slow process for her to meet everybody and, you know, see everybody and taking her out and letting her be held by everybody. We're very skittish, I would say.
I would be too.
Of people seeing her and touching her, and I never thought I'd be the crazy hand sanitizer mom, but here we are. Like, you know, I'm very particular about what we do with her, for sure.
Yeah. Definitely understandable. I mean, so as an RN or a postpartum nurse, there are certain things that they have probably coached y'all to I guess train or to tell other new parents that are in the hospital. What are some of those things that you're coaching them on as they go out into the world after they deliver?
Yeah, so we're basically telling them, you know, social distance. You know, personally, myself, I tell my patients to be cautious and careful, but, you know, I didn't keep my child's grandparents from seeing her. I did keep other people from seeing her, but, you know, my immediate parents and my husband's parents, I would never dream of telling them, hey, you can't see your child, you know, your grandchild.
Was there a lot of preparation in that, Becca, in you know, preparing people to see her? Did you have people quarantine themselves for 14 days, yada yada?
Yes. So my husband's dad is retired, so he stays quarantined. His life is quarantined. He stays home all the time, so he was very, very safe. We felt confident about that. My mom actually stayed with us after delivery for a few weeks. So, and she doesn't work. She was a stay-at-home mom that just stayed at home after the kids left the nest. So she was able to come up and stay with us in quarantine. And then my dad also, he works shift work as well. So he was able to have a break in his work schedule where he could quarantine and then come up. So yeah, definitely April was by far the worst month I feel like Alabama saw so far in the coronavirus. So
yeah,
and that was the month we brought her home. So we definitely stayed home and we didn't take her hardly anywhere. I mean, we would take her on car rides, but that was, you know, that was it.
Yeah.
As far as getting her out of the house during that month. And we've just now, almost 3 months old, have started really taking her anywhere. So we definitely were very slow to get out.
Understandably.
So Becca, we have a question from the audience from YouTube. Somebody wants to know, tell us about what you did to prepare for your delivery. They wanted to know, I guess, they're going through the same thing. What did you do to prepare for your delivery?
Yeah. So my delivery was scheduled, so I didn't have to like play a waiting game. So I made sure the car seat was installed. My bags were packed. My husband's bags were packed. We had everything that we would, need, considering that it would be hard to get anything sent to the hospital for us. And then I was fortunate to be able to go to the hospital and have a baby, not, wonder if I'm in labor, wonder if, today's the day. So we definitely, we had some family come up here. Game. Yeah, we had some family come up here, and they were up here before I delivered. So yeah, it was really just a matter of grabbing our bags and getting to the hospital.
And I know that for some of the parents who have had babies during this time, once you go into the hospital, you cannot come out, even your husband or spouse. You can't come out.
Yeah.
Is that the case with you as well?
Yeah, so he was allowed to go to the car. And actually, my parents brought us food a couple of times. So he was able to go out to their vehicle and get the food from them. But every time he left, even if he left just to go to the car, he had to get his temperature checked. And, they told him, hey, even if you run out to the car and you had just come out of the hospital, if your temp is past what we allow it to be, then you can't come back in. So he was very limited with how he went out to the car, which, you have to carry so much stuff to have a baby. You have to have a car seat and pillows and blankets and your bag and his bag. So there was definitely quite a few trips to the car. But yeah, we don't allow them to leave and go get food and come back or anything like that. No.
Okay. So you have a lot of, you coach a lot of parents on preparedness and also the aftermath. I know you mentioned in some of our pre-talks that your C-section went very smoothly, and you seem very vivid right now. Can you talk about your recovery and how are you doing now? How are you feeling?
Yeah, so my delivery and recovery was not anything like I expected. I didn't really know. I see people that had C-sections all the time, but it's different when it's you. So I didn't really know what to expect as far as pain or how I would handle it. I had never had surgery before, so that was, it was all a new ball game for me. So the first couple of weeks at home were hard. My incision hurt, trying to get up and down out of bed multiple times a night. Trying to teach a baby how to breastfeed that doesn't want to breastfeed was tough. And, just getting back to, normal, you feel kind of helpless in a way. You can't get to your baby fast enough, or you can't get up off the couch quick enough.
Lack of sleep. I know that doesn't help.
Yeah.
Right? We've all been through that.
And I took my shot at exclusively pumping. It didn't work out for us in our journey. But, getting up every 2 hours to pump and praying you don't wake the baby up if she's asleep, or then you have to give her a bottle and, all the things that you would expect from postpartum, plus the anxiety of, well, I send my husband to work every day to the hospital, and, what can he bring home, or what might he bring home? So that
every trip counts.
Hard. I actually, I struggled a lot with anxiety postpartum. And as a nurse, I talk about, postpartum depression, and, you mention anxiety, but you focus more on the postpartum depression.
Yeah.
So
can you
me,
talk about,
kind of an eye-opener. That was like, oh, I need to be talking about this. Like, this is hard, I definitely, coming home from the hospital, I spent more time crying the first 2 weeks of her life than I ever have. So that was really tough. It was like, every time we went to the grocery store and I sat in the car, is he going to get it from the grocery store? Then they didn't know as much about, you know, it was a lot of social distancing and don't stay home unless you absolutely have to go out and things like that. So it was very hard to, you know, just try to live your life, and you feel, you know, I had my mom here, but you feel very isolated, you know, like, oh my gosh, I can't leave the house, my baby might die. You know, that's the kind of like mindset, just being real and raw with the situation.
Yeah.
That's how you feel, you know, every day.
Yeah, like a low level stress there. What did you do?
Yeah.
What did you do to cope and be better?
Spent a lot of time talking to family. I actually am taking anxiety medicine, which was needed, I feel. Just, you know, getting out and walking and trying to get a little bit more exercise when I was cleared and able, and you know, doing safe things. We did a lot of Target pickups and a lot of Chick-fil-A through the drive-thru. Me and Peyton, you know, on the days that we were home together by ourselves. I was very adamant that even with the pandemic, I wanted her to be used to her car seat, because eventually this is going to be over, and I did not want a baby that screamed in her car seat every time you put her in there. So we've done a lot of driving around, a lot of, you know, trying to get out of the house when it's safe. We found a walking track that we like at our college that we went to. So we go up there and walk. There's hardly anybody up there. So yeah, just finding ways to cope and finding things to take your mind off of it, make you feel like a normal person, because already as a postpartum mom, you don't feel like a normal person. I'm sure you can relate, Leslie. You feel kind of, you know, it's kind of chaos. It's just chaos.
You're like outside of your body, and you're like, who am I? You know?
Yeah. So then you add the pandemic to that, and it's just like a whole nother level that I would never have dreamed of, you know? Never would think that would be you. You know, I figured when they were extending spring breaks, I was like, well, this is going to be over in 2 weeks. It'll be fine, you know? And that's obviously not the case.
Yeah. So go ahead, Leslie.
We have another question from the audience, from Facebook, who is asking, what are some of the challenges that you didn't expect, even as an RN nurse? I know that you probably had a good knowledge of what to expect, but what are some of the things, especially through the pandemic, what did you not expect that was a surprise to you?
I definitely didn't expect, you know, even with the pandemic, that when I started taking my child out, that people would be so quick to judge and quick to, you know, oh my gosh, she has a car seat. What is she doing? You know, you know, you expect people to be like, oh, you have a baby. She's so cute. You know, that was definitely a challenge. And then, like I said, the anxiety, you know, we spend so much time talking about baby blues and postpartum depression, and, you know, it's kind of drilled into our heads, but, you know, nobody really fully talks about postpartum anxiety and the struggles that come with that. We mention it, but it's never like as deep of a conversation as the postpartum depression. So that for me, you know, when I got home and I was like, my husband, one day Peyton was doing something funny and we went from laughing to me like just crying and I couldn't tell him why. He was like, I think you're really struggling with something here. And I was like, I think you're right. And, you know, having to make that realization as a nurse, and you think that you would know when you're going through something like that, and then you don't. That was a struggle for me. And then as a new mom who's also an RN, I knew enough to be dangerous. So anytime Peyton did something, you know, I take care of newborns for the first few days of their life. Taking care of a newborn for their entire life is completely different.
It really is.
Getting home and, you know, I was like, oh, she choked on water. She could have secondary drowning, you know. The stuff that goes through your mind as a nurse is like, okay, I need to rationalize this and take a step back. It's like, you know enough to freak yourself out thoroughly, and it's never really as bad as you think. So that was definitely a struggle. I'm very quick to, oh my gosh, what's wrong with her? Oh my gosh, she feels warm. I need to take her temperature, you know, things like that. was definitely a struggle for me.
Yeah. Well, so we've learned a lot from you today. Thank you so much. Is there anything else that we haven't covered? Any other advice that you would help ease the mind of those parents who are going through a similar situation right now? What can you share with them that might be helpful for them to get through all of this?
Yeah, definitely go into the hospital with an open mind. We as nurses are trying our best, and we know that, you know, you miss your families and you wish that they could be there. But enjoy the time with your husband or your boyfriend or whoever's with you. Enjoy that sweet time of bonding with your baby, you know, and take the precautions that you need to take, and, you know, enjoy your baby. I would also say that with all this pandemic craziness going on, something that I learned was fed is best.
Fed is best.
I had a struggle with breastfeeding, and I had to switch to formula, and I beat myself up because I'm a nurse, and, you know, we push breastfeeding so much.
Right.
But I enjoyed my baby more. Formula feeding and her being a happy, full baby.
Yeah.
So, you know, with all this other stuff going on in the world, it's just, you know, try to eliminate as much stress as possible and just enjoy your baby and all the sweet time you get at home with him or her. And try not to stress about the things that you can't control, is what I would say to people that are going through this.
That's really sound. Can we zoom out for can we go a little broader, Becca, before we say goodbye? Because you're in Mobile, Alabama. I have actually not had I've not had any contact with anyone from Mobile, Alabama. So what's it like over there? I mean, you're talking about all the struggles of postpartum, and then you add on the layer of the pandemic, and then you add on a layer of some of the Black Lives Matter and protests and all the unrest. What's it like in your community right now? How are people feeling?
Yeah, so I think everybody's just kind of feeling the stress of everything going on, and trying to do their best to contribute and be positive members of society. You know, with
are you seeing
opening back up? Do what?
Sorry, I was going to ask, is there a lot of support in your community that you're seeing? Is that, like, if you have your finger on the pulse, you see a lot of people in professional life since you've come back to work, and you also mentioned it's quite a diverse team. So can you talk about the diversity and how certain people are coping with what's going? Do people talk about it? Do people shy away from it?
Yeah, you know, we talk about it as it comes. I feel like we definitely talk about the pandemic more than other things going on in the world, just because that's what we're dealing with every single day at work.
Right. And as a healthcare worker.
Yeah, but I mean, I work with a ton of wonderful, amazing people, people of color. I work with a ton of diverse people, and I can honestly say that, you know, we're a very good team, and there's never been any, I guess, issues with it. We're very respectful of them and how they feel about the things going on. And, you know, as a new mom, I feel like it's very important to raise your kids to love everybody, and to, you know, even if somebody's a different color, that it's okay. You know, you can be friends with them, you can love them, you can hang out with them, and that's just kind of how I'm dealing with it. Just making sure I'm doing my part to raise good people with the same values that I have.
That's amazing. Yeah, it's, we're skirting some tricky topics now with my own kids too, and things like why is my skin dark and my neighbor's skin isn't dark, and, you know, understanding that and the differences, and drilling back down to the values of, you know, we're all pretty much the same. So it's good to see that positivity in your hometown, in your community in Mobile, Alabama. That's really heartening. I'm seeing a common theme of other friends in different parts of the country too, and they are it's overwhelmingly a positive message. You know,
Yeah.
depending on where you're consuming your news, people have a different perception of reality. So I think that's a big part of this. What I think the value of this show is to just get some real parents talking to each other from different parts of the country, different parts of ways of life, and you know, we all more or less want the same thing, you know, positivity and a good bright future for our kids.
Right.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, Becca, thank you so much again for being part of our inaugural show and sharing your experience with us, and to all of those listening to our broadcast today and online in many future days and years. I think you've been really helpful in helping and guiding and giving an idea of the experience. But, you know, everybody's experience is different. However, I think that, you know, it's great to hear firsthand what you experienced through giving birth during the pandemic. So again, thank you. And we hope to see you on our next future shows, and please keep in touch with us. And please send us some pictures of baby Peyton.
Yeah. And best of luck navigating forward. Yeah, please do. Yeah, and good luck navigating forward through all the, you know, whatever's going to come our way. You know, we've gotten used to rolling with the punches here, so there's more to come for sure.
And y'all stay safe where you guys are, and I hope that this all calms down soon.
Yes.
Likewise.
We'll see you later. Bye. Bye, Becca.
Thanks, Becca. Bye, Patton.
So for our viewers, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been a real pleasure having you. Thank you for all the likes and thumbs up and hearts that you've showed us, and all your comments and questions. We want to invite you to, for anybody who didn't get a chance to watch it today, you'll be able to go onto our YouTube or our Facebook, and you can catch the episode there. And we look forward to serving parents in the community to address their everyday issues and to help find solutions and resources. So should we close up?
I wanted to cast a net there.
Yes.
You know, for any of you who are watching this now live, or, you know, after it's recorded, if you have anything that is important to you, any issues that you'd like to talk about or you'd like us to explore, please let us know. You know, we're just two parents like you guys, and we wanna know what is of the highest value for the community. So please give us feedback. We're happy to explore different things.
Yes, we'd love to hear from you. So I guess with that, till our next episode, thank you again, everyone, for joining us today, and be safe and healthy, and have a great day.